Welcome to week 7 of the QUT Design Lab series of videos supporting our program based on Wendy Laura Belcher's second edition of Writing a Journal Article in 12 Weeks. I acknowledge the Turrbal and Yugara peoples as the traditional custodians of the unceded lands in Meanjin, where I'm recording this. And I recognise that these lands and waterways have always been places of teaching, learning, research, creativity, storytelling, and arts. I'm your writing wellbeing coach, Dr. Abby Winter, and this week is all about the quality of your evidence. As always, we will start with a reflection. How do you end your writing sessions? There are lots of different ways to end that work for people. Do you stop mid-sentence, which is called the Hemingway Bridge after the author Ernest Hemingway, who used the technique? Do you leave yourself a breadcrumb trail to pick up? Do you write till you're empty and exhausted and then just collapse? I hope not, but everyone works in different ways. Do you colour in your plan or mind map to show what you've done? Do you update a spreadsheet or a Kanban board or an index card or your bullet journal? This week, we're talking about analysing your evidence or data. Next week, we're going to talk about presenting it. So these 2 weeks will work together as a pair. Belcher talks about 4 different types of evidence on pages 219 to 221. Textual, qualitative, quantitative, and experimental. We normally only use one type of evidence per piece of writing, and the way we use them are quite different. She recommends on page 218 that you think about what the evidence you have tells you and how best to explain that. She also warns that once you've looked at your evidence, you may find that you need to collect more. So, what are the 4 types? Textual evidence is anything that we use to communicate meaning. It could be written, but it could also be visual or even physical. Belcher gives the examples of a poem, a photograph, and a car. Qualitative evidence is anything that's come from the field, whether that's interviews or observations or field notes. And if you need help doing this, I tend to like the styles of Marshall and Rossman or Denson and Lincoln, who she recommends. Quantitative evidence is anything with numbers which you'll likely present in tables or graphs. And the final type is experimental evidence, which comes from work in a lab where you have a hypothesis and actively investigate it. It includes work in psychology, as well as chemistry, physics, biology, and the like. If you did the homework and highlighted your evidence where Belcher suggests green for presenting or describing your evidence and blue for interpretation, did you find you had a lot of one colour and not the other? Belcher talks about a few things to think about with your evidence: amount, relevance and recency, quality, and interpretation. Think about each of the following. Do you have enough evidence? And enough is going to be determined by the type of work you're writing, the type of evidence you have, and the argument and claims for significance that you're making. Do you know if you need to cut down your evidence or gather more? Do you have relevant evidence? Again, this relates to your argument. Do you have recent evidence? Do you have good quality evidence? Does your interpretation always follow the presentation of your evidence, or do you have chunks of evidence without any interpretation? On pages 231 to 235, Belcher talks about 12 ways you can assure the quality of your interpretation. The first is coherence. Does your interpretation tell a story that hangs together? Next is congruent. Does your interpretation align with the evidence and make sense of any inconsistencies? The third way is connection. Do you take account of the fact that everything changes in relation to everything else? Next is grounding. Have you contextualized your interpretation? The fifth way is theory. Are you using a theoretical frame for your interpretation, whether that's Marxist or feminist or queer or something else? Next is novelty, which she calls newness. Are you bringing something new to the scholarly conversation about your topic? Seventh is implications. Do you conclude your interpretation with recommendations or implications? Related to that is foregrounding. Does your interpretation of the evidence foreground your most important insights? Each section should conclude with a summary of the most important points. Ninth is definitions. Are you using the best and most appropriate keywords and terms? Do you define your terms the first time you use them? If you're creating new definitions, have you checked whether anyone else has already created something similar? Do your definitions arise from your data? 10th is statistics. If you've got quantitative data, are you using the right statistical method or methods for analysing this? Belcher recommends an online tool called QUT Stats Test at methods.sagepub.com/QUT-stats-test. Next is ethics. Are you doing the right things here in terms of avoiding bias, thinking through potential negative outcomes of publishing your research, giving credit to those who've helped, as well as what we have to think through in terms of getting ethical clearance to conduct research with people, protecting identities and keeping our participants safe and well. The final way to quality assure your interpretation are through a series of 4 logical tests. The contrary test, where you think about making the opposite argument to the one you're actually making in order to think through counter-arguments and improve the quality of your piece by incorporating your responses to them. Next is the insignificance test, where you consider the possibility that coincidence is the reason you have the results you do. The third test is the designed test, where you assume that everything you're thinking of as problems, flawed, broken, or incoherent in your evidence were actually designed that way and working exactly as they should. The final test is the explanation test, where you look at your interpretation to see whether it answers a why question, why something was or became possible, or the better how version of that same question, which enables you to actually have done the investigation and get to the structural reasons behind what you examined, how something was or became possible. People can replicate a how, which makes it a much more powerful thing to play with. As always, at the end of this content video, it's time to open up your calendar and make some time to write in the next week. And of course, there's always homework. Have a look over your piece for your evidence. Is it lacking, too much, or just right? Is it relevant? Is it recent? Is it good quality? Do the 12 tests on your interpretation. Week 8 is a pretty short chapter, and you can skip pages 246 to 250 if you're not doing scientific style articles. Belcher gives a checklist for humanities articles from the bottom of page 250 through to page 253. You can use it in one of 2 ways. Option 1 is to revise your article, then fill in the checklist to make sure you've covered everything. Option 2 is the reverse. Do the checklist first to give you a list of things to work on. Do whichever your heart leads you towards. And as always, remember to track your writing time. See you next week.